The demo for the Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales, was released for PC earlier this week. This is the new action RPG headed by Tim Asano over at Square Enix, who popularized the HD2D art style and led to this current renaissance of 16-bit sprites over 3D backgrounds. This kind of look was very popular in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it, so I decided to pause my demo laying efforts and give it a try. Starting off with the PC-specific settings, I was disappointed to find out that despite being an Unreal Engine 5 game made by a billion-dollar publisher, it does not support ultra-wide resolutions or even AI upscaling techniques like DLSS and FSR, which is a bit of a shame since they are often superior to Unreal's built-in alternatives. Thankfully, since it's such a popular engine, you can actually add ultra-wide support by applying a mod meant for Rhyme Boss Row A City that I found on the Reset Era forums. I won't link it here since anyone who can't even find a forum thread on their own has no business handling random DLLs they found on the internet, but they are out there and work rather well, except for some tolerable UI weirdness. As always, the best part about PC gaming is the ability for the community to fix issues on our own, instead of being forced to depend on a big company's goodwill. So, if Lyle or Uido ever happen to see this video, thank you both for making the mod and pointing people towards it. So, what is the Adventure of Elliot? Well, the elevator pitch seems to be something like 2D Zelda by way of Dragon Quest with some gacha mechanics thrown in. It's an overhead action RPG where you explore the map, kill monsters to collect money and crystals, and delve into dungeons to unlock new items and health fragments which, when combined, increase your character's maximum health. Seriously, this is the closest I've ever seen to a Zelda game on PC other than straight up emulation. That's not a bad thing, to be clear. As far as I'm concerned, the more people make Zelda-inspired games, the more games I'll have to enjoy. But in doing so, I just described about 90% of the demo's gameplay loop, so what about the other 10%? Well, for starters, the game has a strong focus on time travel. The core concept of the story is that a small kingdom unearthed this ancient ruin housing a time portal. The king's minister decides to abuse it for his own purposes because of course it's the goddamn minister every time, and the main character Elliot has to chase him through 4 different eras and stop him from meddling with the past. For that, he has the help of Princess Hyria, a gifted sorceress who watches over and communicates with him through a pair of magical earrings that even allows her to cast spells on Elliot from the comfort and safety of her bedroom. I should note that the game's marketing has been very clear about how the princess is going to be taken out of the picture soon after the prologue though, and instead we'll have a fairy companion named Faye doing all the spellcasting. And that's perhaps the greatest issue of playing this demo. Faye seems to unlock access to a bunch of extra gameplay mechanics that will differentiate the Adventures of Elliot from the Zelda formula, but we never get to see it in the prologue. I do know you get to use Faye in the debut demo, but that's a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive and I don't have one. Sorry. What the PC demo does show though is the time travel mechanic. It reminds me a lot of my recent experience with The Legend of Nayuta Boundless Trails. You go through the same map, except many of the details are changed to reflect the different eras. A ruined building in the present might still be standing in the past, while another might not even have been built yet, and so on. Except, since we're talking about time travel, there's the added causality to it all. Destroying a boulder in the past will also remove it from the present, while destroying it in the present doesn't affect the past, for example. It's a pretty cool setup, though I'm a bit worried the map might be limited in size to make up for the need to rebuild it 4 times over. Overall, it has some very responsive, fun, if a little too formulaic gameplay, and I really enjoyed my time playing through the very hard mode, especially since their approach to difficulty felt very fair by increasing the amount of enemies and restricting your ability to revive and heal at save points, rather than just ranking up enemy health and damage. Something to keep in mind as well is that since this is a Zelda-like, there's no experience and levels. Character progression comes from finding new weapons, tools and health fragments through exploration, shopping and story rewards. I love this kind of lateral upgrading as it allows the developers to better tune the challenge level of each encounter, keeping them fair without having to worry about players being over or under leveled. And of course it's not just combat, the dungeons have plenty of platforming and puzzle challenges to solve, though Princess Hyria was perhaps a bit too overeager to help out on those. In fact, even when she doesn't point out the answer to a puzzle seconds after you encounter it, she can sound very patronizing by overly praising you after completing a basic task like moving a pillar, at least in the Japanese version. With that said, there's an option to limit the NPC chatter if you find her, or the fairy too annoying. I didn't mind it too much though, and it's actually fun to hear her react to what's happening on the screen. The one unexpected element the developers added to the formula is the Magicite system. At first glance, it's a very standard equipment sorting system. You unlock Magicite gems that are used to modify each of your weapon's attributes, from something as simple as straight up increasing their attack power to oddball modifiers like making your boomerang bigger and slower. What's weird about it is how you acquire these gems. They are, for all intents and purposes, gacha mechanics except limited to in-game currency. As you play, you receive Magicite fragments that can be fed to some mysterious merchant's cat, who then spits out random gems at a rate of 1 for every 5 fragments. Each gem has several different versions divided in rarity levels, and dupes are automatically converted back into fragments. I'll be honest, I don't like that. It feels like padding, arbitrarily locking away items behind meaningless randomness, when instead they could have easily spread those Magicite gems along the map as reward for exploration and completing different challenges. It feels tacked on when it's not accompanied by randomness in other areas like on the dungeon maps, enemy composition and the like. In fact, it actually raises a yellow flag on my mind. Now, what I'm going to say is 100% speculation, and I wanna be clear, I would be totally wrong about it, and I actually hope that's the case, but that gacha mechanic opens up the possibility of selling in-game currency as DLC to speed players along. Back when they released Deus Ex Mankind Divided, they tried to sell consumable items by way of single-use DLC that you would only redeem onto a single save file. Later, they tried the same in Rise of the Tomb Raider, selling consumable card packs for the Expedition mode. I don't mind these kinds of mechanics in free-to-play titles, but I absolutely hate the idea of being charged upfront and again later for gameplay progression. Again, I have literally zero idea if that's how it's going to play out, but you know what they say, once bitten, twice shy. In terms of story and writing, the demo is a very straightforward affair, and everyone seems to be exactly what they seem to be. You have the pure-hearted adventurer Elliot as the main character, the kind, gentle, sheltered princess who yearns to experience life outside her castle, the wise and fair king who nonetheless seems currently incapable of hiring dependable help, and the ambitious, ruthless minister who betrays his trust at the first opportunity. There's some promise of depth in the world lore, as in the full game we will be able to see different eras in Philabialdia's history, and most likely force to jump our way through events that will reverberate through the other eras, but the prologue of the Millennium Tales read more like a set of Id's bedside stories than a fantasy book, and I don't expect any surprises in the main plot. On the one hand, not every story needs to be layers upon layers of conflicting character motivations, misdirection and plot twists. Sometimes it can feel good to be the unquestionably good guys fighting the mustache-twirling villain, but I swear to God, if Elliot turns out to be his own father, sending his baby self to the future as part of a time loop, I'm gonna eat my copy of The Man Who Folded Himself. Actually, I only have a digital copy of The Man Who Folded Himself. I'll buy a physical copy and then eat it. Maybe. Anyway, in short, the demo looks good, sounds great and plays well, but doesn't seem to offer any gameplay and story experiences that can't be found on older, cheaper games. They are clearly holding some gameplay elements back in the form of Fae, but even that doesn't move the needle much for me. It's clearly going to be a competent game, don't get me wrong, but I'm not in a rush to buy it. Not when I can buy Alabaster Dawn for less than half the price, for example. And if you wanna make up your own mind, you can always try the demo for yourself. It's available free on Steam, but in the meantime, I have some demons laying to get back to. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, feedback is appreciated. Bye bye!
Yeah.